One company released one major.
I thought it was crazy. I haven't really spent a lot of time in Miami or Florida, so I don't want to say anything disrespectful, but it just seemed gnarly.
Then we'll sit down. Okay?
Yeah, I'm gonna miss GTA in that.
One company released one major product in an entire decade. In that same decade, it became one of the most profitable entertainment companies on Earth. Every business school teaches founders to launch faster, ship more, stay visible. This company did the opposite and got richer than nearly everyone else in its industry. Its last product made $1 billion in 3 days, faster than any movie, faster than any album, faster than any entertainment product ever released. The man who built the company hasn't given a real interview in over a decade. When a broadcaster made a film about his life, they made it without him. He wouldn't even answer the phone. That company is Rockstar Games. The product is Grand Theft Auto. It started with a bug in a broken driving game. It became the most feared brand in gaming. One hidden file nearly destroyed the entire company and turned its founder into a ghost. 20 years later, that same instinct is why, weeks before its biggest launch in history, Rockstar fired more than 30 of its own employees in a single week. And is now standing in front of a labor tribunal in the exact months it's about to break every record that exists. The question was never whether Grand Theft Auto 6 succeeds. It will. The question is what this company had to do to earn its silence, and who is still paying for it. What we're about to find out isn't just how a video game studio built something this valuable. It's why a company built on noise, outrage, and spectacle chose to go completely silent instead, and what that choice is still costing the people inside it. Rockstar's founder was practically raised inside a crime movie. In 1971, a film called Get Carter hit British cinemas. In its most stylish scene, a young actress in silver-framed sunglasses speeds Michael Caine away from his pursuers in a white convertible. Her name was Geraldine Moffat. Months later, she had her first son. Sam Hauser grew up with a mother who acted in gangster films, and a father who ran Ronnie Scott's, the most famous jazz club in Britain, where legends walked through the door like regulars. The influence of this jazz background was so strong that the Hauser brothers literally immortalized their father in the game. The street saxophonist in the parks of Liberty City in GTA 4 is Walter Hauser himself. He personally recorded these tracks for the game. Even better, if you toss coins into his case 3 times in a row, the game unlocks a secret reward. Nico gets that exact jazz melody as a custom ringtone on his phone. According to Jacked, the definitive book on Rockstar's rise, the jazz great Dizzy Gillespie once asked young Sam what he wanted to be when he grew up. His answer, a bank robber. He never robbed one. He built something more profitable. As a kid, Sam wasn't interested in toys that told him what to do. His favorite game was called Elite, a space simulator where you could fly anywhere, attack anyone, and answer to no one. He spent hours pretending to be a space pirate, looting ships for a living. He wasn't playing a game, he was rehearsing an identity. Then, for his 18th birthday, his father took him somewhere that would define the rest of his life. New York City. Sam fell in love with it instantly. The speed, the chaos, the danger, the filth. On that same trip, his father took him to lunch with an executive from the music label BMG. Sam spent the entire meal arguing with the man about how out of touch he was with youth culture. Afterward, the executive told Sam's father, "Your son is an utter lunatic, but he has good ideas." Sam had just talked his way into a job. A British teenager, obsessed with an American city he'd visited once, was about to build the most American product ever made. He started in 1990 at the bottom, in the mailroom. He climbed fast, music videos, A&R, and then, when BMG opened a games division, video games. 24 years old, running a games division. Looking at a prototype almost everyone else wanted to cancel. The studio was DMA Design in Dundee. Their game was called Race and Chase. You played a police officer, following strict rules, chasing criminals through a city. It was realistic, it was also unbearably boring. Sam looked at it and started asking questions nobody had asked before. What if you didn't stop at red lights? What if you could drive on the sidewalk? What if, instead of playing the cop, you played the criminal? What if you could steal any car on the street? What if you got points for the chaos, not the arrest? Those 5 questions had just created an entirely new genre of entertainment. The name didn't fit anymore either. Sam had a replacement: Grand Theft Auto. That name would eventually become one of the most valuable brands on Earth. But in 1997, nobody believed it. Before it even launched, it was already infamous because the Outrage wasn't an accident.
Well, it's a mission-based driving game where you're basically driving around the city, stealing cars, running over pedestrians.
Pretty tame stuff there.
Well, yeah.
A publicist fed the controversy directly to politicians and press. The game was condemned in the House of Lords before release. The Guardian called it the most controversial game in a decade. Every furious headline was a free advertisement to everyone who wasn't a parent. Outrage is marketing, as long as you're the one holding the match. It would define the next 30 years of this company. In 1998, BMG sold its games division for $14 million to a New York company, Take-Two Interactive. Sam moved with the deal and rebuilt the label under Take-Two's umbrella, not a studio, a brand modeled openly on the record labels he'd grown up idolizing. He called it Rockstar. Then came the bet that changed everything. Instead of one city, Sam and his brother Dan planned 3. Liberty City, modeled on New York. Vice City, modeled on Miami. San Andreas, modeled on California. Grand Theft Auto 3 would be first, and it would put players inside a fully 3-dimensional living world for the first time in the series' history. But this is where everything almost fell apart. Weeks before release, Sam Houser stood at his own apartment window. His unreleased game was about crime in New York. Outside that window, the World Trade Center was collapsing. Sam and Dan seriously considered canceling the launch entirely, not delaying it, canceling it. For a moment, it looked like Grand Theft Auto 3 might never come out at all, but they believed, underneath the satire and the violence, that this game was actually a love letter to New York. So instead of killing it, they cut it. They removed the Twin Towers from the map. They took out the ability to fly planes into buildings. They toned down the gore. What was left got past the ratings board and onto shelves. Grand Theft Auto 3 became the fastest-selling PlayStation 2 game ever made. Vice City and San Andreas followed, each one bigger, each one sharper, eventually selling more than 20 million copies apiece. 2 British outsiders were selling America back to itself as satire, and America couldn't stop buying it. It also broke the basic economics of the industry. The same $50 that used to buy 10 hours of a straight line now bought hundreds of hours in a world that never really ended. Competitors panicked and spent years and hundreds of millions of dollars just trying to catch up. And it wasn't a one-time trick. In 2003, Rockstar built an entire game, Manhunt, around simulated snuff film executions. When a real murder in Britain got linked to it in the press, tabloids did the Outrage marketing for free this time. Retailers pulled it, 2 countries banned it outright, and it still sold more than 1.5 million copies. Courts later found the murder had nothing to do with the game. That correction ran a lot quieter than the accusation. 3 years later, Bully proved the formula didn't even need a real crime. A lawyer went on national television calling it a school shooter simulator before anyone outside Rockstar had played a single minute of it.
Showing a dunking of a black student's head in a dirty toilet, body slamming, punching. The descriptions of the game itself, in which you use slingshots to shoot people and bludgeon teachers and students with cricket bats.
The panic itself was the marketing campaign. When the game shipped, it turned out to be about a bullied kid defending other bullied kids. By then, it didn't matter. And this is the part nobody talks about. Buried in the code of San Andreas was an unfinished sex scene, never meant to ship, but never fully deleted either. Rockstar's engineers worried that cutting it out completely, this close to launch, could break the game in ways they wouldn't have time to fix. So instead, they hid it, wrapped the code so no player could reach it, or so they thought. When San Andreas came out on PC, modders found it within weeks. They called it hot coffee, and it went viral overnight. Rockstar denied everything. The ratings board didn't believe them. They opened an investigation. Then they found the code in every copy, worldwide. Rockstar had been caught on the record hiding sexual content from a ratings board and from parents. What followed wasn't a scandal, it was a siege. San Andreas got re-rated adults only overnight, and Walmart, 20% of Rockstar's entire retail business, pulled it from every shelf. Australia banned it outright. Rockstar spent $25 million just recalling and re-releasing a clean version. The city of Los Angeles sued Take-Two for deceptive marketing. The Manhattan District Attorney opened a criminal investigation. The Federal Trade Commission opened its own. A United States Senator, Hillary Clinton, moved to legislate video game content nationally. By the end of that year, Take-Two had lost $185 million. 3 of Rockstar's 5 original co-founders quit within 12 months. What was left was just Sam and Dan. For most companies, that's the story's ending. This is where everything changes for Rockstar instead. It became rule number 1, permanently rewired into the company's DNA. Outrage was only profitable when Rockstar controlled it. A leak, a hidden file, information nobody signed off on that could burn the whole empire to the ground. From that day forward, Rockstar became one of the most secretive companies in entertainment. Almost no interviews, almost no announcements. The man who'd built a brand on noise went completely silent himself, so silent that when the BBC eventually made a film about his life, with Daniel Radcliffe playing Sam Hauser, they made it without his cooperation. Remember that instinct. We'll come back to it. 20 years later, it puts the company on trial again. Rockstar needed something more than silence to survive what came next. In 2008, Grand Theft Auto 4 traded the chaos of the earlier games for something darker and more restrained. An immigrant story about the American dream curdling into something else. Critics who had dismissed the series as a shock value toy started comparing it to prestige television. Then came Red Dead Redemption in 2010, a slow, mournful western that made grown adults cry over a video game. The company tabloids once called a threat to children was being called, without irony, the HBO of video games. That reputation is the only reason Grand Theft Auto 5 could walk into rooms Rockstar had been banned from a decade earlier. But first, Rockstar had to solve a problem that had nothing to do with scandal. Rockstar's engine, the software running every GTA game, belonged to a company that had just been bought by their biggest rival, EA. Overnight, the technology behind every future Grand Theft Auto was controlled by the one company Rockstar competed with most directly. For the second time in the company's history, somebody else held the keys to its future. Sam decided that would never happen again. A small side team, quietly building their own engine for years while working on a forgotten cowboy shooter nobody expected much from, got the mandate, finish it for everyone. That decision became Rage, the foundation of every Rockstar game since. In 2013, that machine produced something the industry had never seen. Grand Theft Auto 5 reportedly cost around $265 million at the time, the most expensive game ever made. It earned roughly $815 million in 24 hours. It crossed $1 billion in 3 days, faster than any entertainment product in history. Not any game, any product. Over 200 million copies sold since. Then Rockstar found something worth more than the launch itself. Grand Theft Auto Online, the multiplayer world bolted onto it, turned into a machine that refilled itself. Players kept coming back for years, buying digital currency called shark cards, feeding an economy that never stopped. A game from 2013 was still generating hundreds of millions of dollars a decade later. That single fact rewrote the company's entire strategy. Every other studio has to ship every year. Rockstar didn't. Releasing became the risk. Waiting became the asset. So they did what no other entertainment company on the planet could afford. They went quiet. One major game in 10 years. But the silence had a cost, and it landed first on the people running the machine. In 2018, as Red Dead Redemption 2 neared launch, Dan Hauser mentioned in an interview that the writing team had worked 100-hour weeks. He meant it as a badge of honor. The industry heard something else, the start of a global reckoning over crunch, the overtime culture hidden inside game development. The game itself was a masterpiece. Over 60 million copies sold. But the people behind it were cracking. Leslie Benzies, the producer many credited as the operational engine of Grand Theft Auto V, sued for $150 million in unpaid royalties, settled confidentially. And in 2020, Dan Houser walked away from Rockstar for good, reportedly after his own bout of burnout. He later said the world had probably had enough GTA from him. Sam stayed, alone at the top of a machine the brothers had built together. The boy who dreamed of being an outlaw, now an invisible president, unseen in public for years. Remember this moment. It explains almost everything that happens next. For years, Grand Theft Auto 6 existed only as a rumor. Rockstar said nothing, and the nothing became the marketing. Actors started publicly counting down, years before the game even had a release window. In 2023, Timothée Chalamet was asked on a red carpet about the wait and could only laugh, joking that he thought he'd have to wait until 2025. The game still wasn't out a year after that joke aged badly. When the first trailer finally dropped in December 2023, it broke YouTube's 24-hour view record, taking the crown from Mr. Beast.
Y'all boys ready to watch GTA 6? Let's go.
When the second trailer arrived in May 2025, it did something no trailer for a game or a movie had ever done. Rockstar reported 475 million views across every platform in a single day, at the time the biggest video launch ever recorded, ahead of any Hollywood trailer that had come before it. 2 trailers in over a decade. That's the entire public campaign for the most anticipated product in entertainment history. This is where the story stops being about a game.
Rockstar Games is trying to create the best thing anyone's ever seen in entertainment, not just interactive entertainment. That's a tall order.
Analysts estimate Grand Theft Auto 6 could cost more than $2 billion to make and market. Combine the budgets of Cyberpunk 2077, Genshin Impact, and Star Citizen, 3 of the most expensive games ever made, and it would still fall short. Take-Two's own CEO, Strauss Zelnick, has openly called costs like this an advantage, an entry barrier no competitor can climb. Excess isn't a risk to Rockstar, it's the wall that keeps everyone else out. Which is exactly why what happened this summer matters. In June 2026, Rockstar finally opened pre-orders and broke sales records within hours. But Take-Two's stock didn't rise, it fell. Investors weren't upset that the game was too expensive. They were upset it wasn't expensive enough. The standard edition landed at $80, below what Wall Street had been betting on. And buried in the same announcement was something bigger. Grand Theft Auto 6 will launch as single-player only, no online mode on day one. The most reliable, most profitable revenue engine Take-Two has been pushed back, possibly into 2027. Then there was the box. For months, Zelnick told journalists, on camera, on the record, more than once, that physical copies would remain a real part of the release. In interviews with CNBC and Variety, he specifically denied that a physical launch would be delayed or watered down. What Rockstar actually shipped was a box, with a download code inside, no disc. Collectors called it a lie dressed up as a compromise. It sold out on Amazon in about an hour anyway. This is the same company whose CEO has said, in multiple interviews, that consumers should feel the price they pay is fair for the value they receive, while his own contract reportedly ties his bonus directly to how much recurrent spending Rockstar's games generate. The same company that has, for years, sent private investigators after modders and shut down free fan projects it viewed as competition. Control the information. Control the money. Control the story. It's the same instinct that built Hot Coffee's cover-up 20 years ago, just aimed at a different target. And days before, one of Grand Theft Auto 6's own delay announcements, that instinct turned inward onto Rockstar's own staff. At the end of October 2025, Rockstar fired more than 30 workers across its UK and Canadian offices. The company called it gross misconduct, leaking confidential information in a Discord chat. The Independent Workers' Union of Great Britain said 31 of those dismissed were union members or organizers. the fallout was unlike anything in Rockstar's history. Protests outside the Edinburgh studio and Take-Two's London offices. More than 220 employees signing a letter demanding reinstatement. Questions raised in the British Parliament, the Prime Minister calling it deeply concerning. Fired workers described the wreckage to reporters. One veteran developer stacking supermarket shelves to support his family. Others losing their visas because their badge simply stopped working one October morning. Rockstar says the firings were about leaks, not unions. But the cost this time has a court date. An employment tribunal is set to hear the case in the months before launch. And judges have already let the workers argue they were blacklisted. And this isn't just about the people who got fired. Just days before this story was made, 3 current Rockstar employees, still on the team, finishing Grand Theft Auto 6, spoke publicly for the first time, anonymously, out of fear of losing their jobs. They describe bonus pay, sometimes a fifth of someone's entire yearly income, that can be withheld with no explanation and no appeal. They said crunch is written directly into the contracts UK staff sign, a standard clause letting Rockstar demand far more overtime than the law would otherwise allow. They said the gender pay gap at the company has actually widened in recent years, and that the programs meant to close it were quietly canceled. One of them summed it up in a single sentence. Some people at this company have made hundreds of millions of pounds. The people building the product generating that money are not always among them. At the end of June 2026, the exact week Grand Theft Auto 6 pre-orders broke records, the union formally filed for recognition. The message was unmistakable. You're about to make more money in one day than most companies make in a decade. Reports suggest pre-orders may have already generated as much as $3 billion. The people who built it want a seat at the table, which brings us to November 19th, 2026. The launch is a business case study before a single copy ships. Analysts project first-day sales that could make it the fastest-selling entertainment product in history, breaking the record Rockstar set 13 years earlier. Take-Two's own guidance implies the billion-dollar-plus budget could be recovered within months. Zelnick calls it arguably the most anticipated entertainment property of all time.
The anticipation for that title may be the greatest anticipation I've ever seen for an entertainment property, and I've been around the block a few times.
He's probably right. And that's what makes this story bigger than gaming. Every entertainment company fears the same thing. In a world drowning in content, the scarcest resource left is an event everyone experiences at the same moment. Hollywood can't manufacture that anymore. Streaming killed it. One company in New York still can, by saying nothing for a decade, then dropping a single product like a meteor. One game a decade, 2 trailers in 12 years. A billion-dollar wall no rival can climb. In June 2026, the White House itself posted an AI-generated parody of the game's cover art with Donald Trump on it, joking that they'd saved America before Grand Theft Auto 6 came out. It went viral across the political spectrum within hours. When reporters asked Rockstar to comment, the company said 2 words: no comment. Silence sells. Rockstar proved it. But silence has a price. The boy from the jazz club who dreamed of outlaws is now an invisible executive answering to a labor tribunal. The brother who wrote the legend is gone. The producer who built the machine took a settlement and disappeared. 3 founders quit after hot coffee and were never spoken of again. 31 fired workers are walking into a courtroom in the exact months their game conquers the world. And the people who never got fired, the ones still finishing it, are describing a pay system built on silence too. On November 19th, Grand Theft Auto 6 becomes the biggest launch in the history of entertainment. The numbers will be historic. The silence for once will break. The only question left is the one Sam Houser never answers. When perfection is the product, who pays for it?